Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, as you have seen from the title, Allan is going to share his experience with starting his law firm during a pandemic. Allan, let me start by saying how we met with Allan. We're in the same class in Kenya School of Law. He was the chairman of our firm. That's how we met. I remember the first time he thought I was Ugandan. He didn't even know I was Kenyan. Anyway, and then after that, we have been friends ever since. That's the reason I've brought him to share his experiences, because I remember March when the corona was at its peak. I remember he called me and told me he has just lost his job. So for me, I was just like, you're like, because things were tough during that time. But for him, it made that choice of starting a law firm. That's why I want him to share his experience in the hope that maybe it's going to help someone out there. Let him introduce himself.
Hello everyone. My name is Allan Ongato Kasabuli. As Ruth has just said, we met at the Kenya School of Law, same class. That is 2016. Fast forward to 2020 now, during the corona pandemic, I was employed as an associate, like so many lawyers of our experience. I had been admitted in 2019, and therefore at the time of the pandemic, I just had a little over a year of experience practicing. So obviously there was the question of whether or not I had learned enough to go out on my own. Whenever I consulted people, not many were convinced that I could manage to go out on my own. But personally, I was persuaded that I knew enough to offer solutions whenever problems arose. So I remember very well that time my employer gave myself and the rest of the employees options, including whether or not we would opt for redundancy or unpaid leave, or there was also a third option of continuing to work, but working from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, to 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock. That's the usual working hours, but from Monday to Saturday. And you remember that time the curfew was it 6 p.m.? 7 p.m.
Yeah, I remember it was at 7 p.m.
Yeah, and considering the office was at Upper Hill, it was
and you live on the other side.
Exactly, it was an uphill task. In other words, my interpretation of that third option was the employer just wanted to make the option as difficult as possible for people, so that many of them would opt to just quit, or for the other two options.
It was more firing people, but in a legal way.
Right. Therefore, I sat down. I thought, like I said earlier, I had been considering going out on my own because I felt I'd be more fulfilled that way. Therefore, after
what gave you that courage? Because most people at that time, the first thing after you've just lost your job, you think of maybe, especially and then there's a pandemic.
Yeah.
Most people, they think of maybe just the first thing people do is maybe giving up, feeling like the world has just come to an end. But for you, what made you make that decision immediately like this? Like, I want to start my own farm.
Let me say, after my pupillage, that year after my pupillage, the person I went to work for was someone who was just starting out. Okay. They were just starting their farm. And therefore I had to do so many things, including, the work of an accountant. I used to draft. I even used to serve sometimes. I used to do all these things. Therefore I got a very good feel of,
how a startup looks like. So it wasn't like a new field completely.
Therefore I was confident.
Okay.
I knew what it involved. I knew what to expect, therefore I didn't have any illusions as to, what could happen. To add on to that, during that experience, I developed some really good networks. There are people I knew who I was confident that if they knew that I was practicing on my own, that they would give me work because of the confidence they had shown me when I was there. And yeah, whenever even I was employed, they used to consult me oftenly. So I was hopeful.
Okay.
I was
So
confident.
then those networks again were some of the things that gave you that hope of
Exactly.
taking that leap.
Exactly.
Then why a partnership? Because what you have started is a partnership.
Yes.
Why not a sole proprietorship or an LLP? Why did you choose a partnership?
Number one, frankly, an LLP was always an option I considered, or we considered rather. But the cost implication at the time, we felt it wouldn't be wise to spend 25 extra thousands when we weren't sure about the future.
Okay.
You see, the option of partnership was more appealing to me because, first of all, one of the um, one of the things I didn't like about some of my previous places of work was the fact that I felt like when you are practicing on your own, the pressure can be overwhelming, and as a result, you find yourself making very wrong decisions. Therefore, I always felt like law firms that were being run by partners were always better managed. And then number three, usually if you work with corporates like to give work to law firms with partners because it's evidence probably of more stability. And yeah, those were the main reasons. Plus, I also knew my partner. I knew him very well. It's someone we've journeyed together with the same class in campus, in law school. Therefore, it was a pretty easy decision.
Okay.
Yes.
And why Ruiru? Because you could have started your law firm in Nairobi, in Kitale, where you come from. But why did you settle for Ruiru?
Well, Ruiru because number one, at the time of leaving work, I had some savings. It wasn't a lot of money. It was something like 100,000 shillings. And
So
I knew
you felt like Ruiru could be maybe the
Yes,
most affordable
yes.
at that time.
yes, I knew that I would encounter challenges.
Maybe it's
In the
understandable
first-
because even of the pandemic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
First 2-3 months, and I was hopeful that the pandemic would, subside
Okay.
sooner than it has turned out to.
Right now, like
Exactly.
until now, as
Yeah,
we're
I was
shooting
very
this video,
hopeful.
the pandemic is still on.
Still there.
Yeah.
6-7 months down, is it?
Yeah.
7 months down the line.
Still here.
But at the time, Riru was more appealing to me because of number one, the rent was much cheaper than in town. I did my research, and then number two, proximity to Nairobi. I'm conscious of the fact that being the capital city of Kenya, a substantial amount of the GDP of Kenya is in and around Nairobi. Therefore, I didn't want to go far away from Nairobi.
And not also like staying later in Nairobi.
Exactly. So Ruiru was more. It was just circumstances.
Okay.
Yeah, it was more appealing at the time. It made more sense at the time. That's the reason.
How did you go about getting the office space? Because now this is now a new place.
I was
Because you have
lucky.
been dealing with Upper Hill, so you have gone
Yes.
to a new place. So how did you get the office space, and how do you go about it?
I was lucky. I knew a former classmate of mine from University of Nairobi School of Mpakala, a former roommate. Beg your pardon. Even though he was 2 classes ahead, we used to share a room when I was in second year and he was in fourth year. So I came to know that he was operating a law firm in Ruiru town. So it is when I had made that decision to go to Ruiru that I decided to contact him. when I contacted him, he was gracious enough to, you know,
To
invite
let you
me
a
to his
space
office.
to
Yeah.
in his office.
Yeah, so when I went there, we agreed on the
Rent and everything.
modalities. He gave me a space there, though I couldn't advertise, but all I needed was just,
A
space
just
to
for a
start.
start.
Exactly.
Okay. And
Yeah.
how did you get your first clients apart from the networks you'd already built
Yeah.
before?
Yeah.
How did you get clients? Like, how did you go about getting clients?
I actually remember after when I was sure now that I was leaving my,
The employment.
immediate former place of employment. I just took my phone. I went through my phone book. I called everyone who cared to listen.
Okay.
Yeah, and told them that I was going out on my own.
Or
So
for like more former clients?
not really, just
Or even
anyone
family and
who.
friends?
Yeah, mostly friends.
Oh, so it's like
Mostly
more of
friends.
advertising.
Exactly.
Like at least let them know that you've gone on your own, so you can
Yeah.
get someone who's looking for legal services.
Yeah, so I called so many people and let them know that I was now on my own and that I would appreciate referrals and whatever little there was that I would appreciate. So I had called a certain friend of mine, and then it happened just that same week. Before I'd even registered the firm, I'd completed registering the firm. Um, this was not my first client, but this guy referred me to a certain police officer who had just received a letter of interdiction,
Oh, okay.
and he felt like the procedure was not
Fair.
exactly the correct procedure set out in the law wasn't followed. Therefore, they wanted to get their job back. So I set up a meeting in town. He was coming from outside town. I don't remember where very well. But surprise, surprise, I went to town. I called the guy. He's not picking up.
Wow. Then what,
Yet
what
I was
happened?
happy. In fact, I even
And
saved.
then-
I saved his number as client 001 on my phone. Yeah,
then what
he didn't
happened?
show up. He didn't show up. I was so disappointed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's how it started. But I knew that it was just a false start, and that
But
good things would
you
come.
still didn't give up. You just knew it
Yeah,
was just a
I
roadblock.
didn't. The first client who came to my office, walk in, came after I had been there for more than a month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
came-
like walk-ins are not like dependable when starting immediately.
Exactly.
No.
It takes time before people get to, know
Get to
the
know you,
office.
yeah.
Yeah, even before people around there get to know that there's,
An office there.
yeah, or in my circumstances, most people when they come to the guy who had hosted me.
Oh, okay.
Therefore-
yeah, but they're considering for
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
you're already in someone else's office. Your
Yeah.
name is not at the door.
Yes, I remember after the 1 month, someone just came, knocked, and then when I went to see them, they had come with a stack of papers and they told me they wanted the papers certified. That was the first walk-in client.
Or you ever had.
Yeah, I
during-
ever had. And then after that, doors kind of just opened, and then a few days later, I had another walk-in client come who had an employment dispute. I took up the matter, and then
Thank you so much for watching this part. This is part 1 where Allan has shared his experience. I hope you have learned from this experience. So if you have any questions, you can leave them on the comment section. I'm also going to share his Facebook page.
Facebook.
Yeah, I'm going to share his Facebook page and Instagram handle so that if you have any questions, you can always ask. I'm sure he'll be willing to help, especially not someone
Anytime.
maybe who's thinking to take this big leap. And also, thank you so much. Now we're going don't forget to look out for part 2 where he's going now to share his lessons.
Subscribe.